In the early morning hours of November 13, 2022, four University of Idaho students were fatally stabbed in an off-campus residence in Moscow, Idaho. On December 30th, suspect Brian Christopher Kohberger was arrested in Monroe County, Pennsylvania, on 4 counts of first-degree murder and 1 count of felony burglary. Prosecutors are seeking the death penalty. A jury trial is currently scheduled to begin on August 11, 2025, in Boise, Idaho. During the fall 2022 semester, 5 female University of Idaho students lived in a rented off-campus residence in the rural college town of Moscow, Idaho. The 3-story home had 6 bedrooms, 2 on each floor. There had not been a murder in the town since 2015. In the early morning of November 13, 2022, 4 University of Idaho college students were stabbed to death in a shared rental home close to campus. 2 female victims, Madison Mogen and Xana Kernodle, lived in the house. They worked at the same local restaurant. The third, Kaylee Goncalves, had recently moved out of the house, but returned to attend a nearby party. The 4th victim, Ethan Chapin, was Kernodle's boyfriend who was sleeping over on the night of the attacks. 2 other female roommates also lived at the house. They were not attacked. Earlier on the evening of November 12th, 2 of the 4 victims, Chapin and Kernodle, were reportedly at an on-campus party at the nearby Sigma Chi fraternity from 8 p.m. to 9 p.m. They returned home at 1:45 a.m. That evening, the other 2 victims, Mogen and Goncalves, had gone to the Corner Club, a downtown sports bar, at 10 p.m., from which they departed at 1:30 a.m. A live-streamed video on Twitch by the Grub Truck, a food truck 4 blocks south at Friendship Square, Main and 4th Streets, showed Mogen and Goncalves at 1:41 a.m., chatting and smiling, getting their food 10 minutes later, and leaving to take what the police initially said was an Uber ride home, a trip of about 1 mile, 1.6 kilometers. The police later rephrased their statement to say the ride was provided by a private party, arriving home at 1:56 a.m. According to the surviving roommates, the 4 students were home by 2 a.m. 7 unanswered phone calls were made from the phone of Goncalves to her former longtime boyfriend, a fellow student, from 2:26 to 2:52 a.m., and 3 unanswered calls were made from Mogen's phone to the same person, from 2:44 to 2:52 a.m. These calls were investigated, with the police concluding they did not believe the recipient of those missed calls was involved in the crime. A DoorDash order labeled for Xana was delivered to the house around 4 a.m. The 2 surviving roommates had allegedly returned home by 1 a.m. Original reports stated both surviving roommates were in their beds on the ground floor at the time of the killings, were not attacked or held hostage, and that neither woke during the killings. However, the probable cause affidavit for the case said that one surviving roommate stated she was sleeping on the 2nd floor, the same floor as Kernodle and Chapin, before she was awakened by what sounded like Goncalves and her dog. She stated she later heard a roommate saying something to the effect of "there's someone here." The roommate stated she believed this was said by Goncalves, although investigators also believe this might have been Kernodle speaking, as a forensic download of her cell phone showed that she was on the app TikTok at 4:12 a.m. The surviving roommate stated she opened her door twice within a short span of time, and the second time, heard what sounded like crying coming from Kernodle's room and a male voice saying, "It's okay, I'm going to help you." Security cameras near the home picked up the sound of whimpering, a loud thud, and a dog barking numerous times starting around 4:17 a.m. The surviving roommate allegedly opened her door a 3rd time and saw a figure clad in black clothing and a mask that covered his mouth and nose walking towards her. The man, whom the roommate stated she did not recognize, walked past her and used the sliding glass door to exit. The roommate stated she stood in a frozen shock phase and then locked herself in her room. The 4 victims were stabbed to death on the 2nd and 3rd floors in the residence, where they had been in bed. The victims were not gagged or restrained, and the walls at the scene were spattered with blood. Mogen and Goncalves were found in Mogen's bedroom, and Kernodle and Chapin were found in Kernodle's room. Before the 911 call was made, the surviving roommates reportedly summoned friends to the residence because they believed one of the second-floor victims was unconscious and was not waking up. Someone at the residence called 911 at 11:58 a.m., over 7 hours after the homicides allegedly occurred, on a surviving roommate's phone to request aid for an unconscious person. The identity of the 911 caller was not released, but police confirmed the caller was not considered a suspect. When police arrived, the door to the home was open. There was no sign of forced entry or damage inside the home, and nothing appeared to be missing. The 2 surviving roommates were on the property when police arrived, as were other friends of the victims. All 4 victims were pronounced dead at noon. Detectives stated they believe the killings occurred sometime between 4 a.m. and 4:25 a.m. Upon searching the residence, officers came upon Goncalves's dog, which she shared with her ex-boyfriend, alive and unharmed on the 3rd floor. On the evening of November 13th, the university canceled classes for November 14th. It also scheduled a candlelight vigil to be held on the UI administration building lawn on the evening of November 16th, then postponed it 2 weeks. From the day of the killings, investigators initially said that there was no risk to the community. 3 days later, however, Moscow Police Chief James Fry said, "We cannot say that there is no threat to the community." Fall break was scheduled to begin after November 18th, with classes resuming on November 28th. Many students and other Moscow residents, not trusting the initial assurances of the police and fearing for their own safety, began an early Thanksgiving holiday exodus from the area. Other residents who stayed were anxious and cautious, and a number of professors canceled their classes. Due to weather concerns, the candlelight vigil was moved indoors to the Kibbe Dome and held on the evening of November 30th. The fathers of Goncalves and Chapin criticized the limited flow of information from the police and university to the families of the victims. TikTokers, self-proclaimed psychics, and social media users began to speculate and spread rumors and misinformation about the case on social media. In response, the Moscow Police Department criticized internet sleuths for creating rampant online rumors and disrupting investigations, and in a December 2nd news release said, "There is speculation, without factual backing, stoking community fears and spreading false facts." Moscow Police Captain Roger Lanier said, "Tracking down rumors and quelling rumors about specific information and specific events that may not have happened is a huge distraction. We are not releasing specific details as we do not want to compromise the investigation." They also warned that people harassing or threatening those potentially involved with the case could face criminal charges. The investigation of the stabbings was led by the Moscow Police Department, MPD, and supported by the Idaho State Police, ISP, and the Federal Bureau of Investigation, FBI. Altogether, almost 130 members of law enforcement from the 3 agencies worked on the case. Autopsies on the 4 victims were performed in Spokane, Washington. The Latah County coroner stated the victims all appeared to have been stabbed multiple times, with fatal wounds in the chest and upper body, with a large knife, if not the same knife, very similar ones. At least one victim, with what were apparently defensive stab wounds on her hands, and possibly more appear to have tried to fend off their attacker, and the victims may have been attacked while sleeping in their beds. None showed signs of sexual assault. All 4 deaths were deemed homicide by stabbing. The victims were not tied and gagged. No weapon has been recovered, although the police believe the killer or killers used a fixed-blade knife. A surviving roommate, who reportedly saw the suspect, described him as a male stranger around 5 feet 10 inches, 1.78 meters, and not very muscular, but athletically built with bushy eyebrows. On November 19th, Moscow police requested the public provide any video of the house that had been recorded the night of the killings. A phone tip line and email were created through the FBI for the public to submit information to officials. As of December 5th, 2,600 emailed tips, 2,700 phone calls, and 1,000 digital media submissions were reportedly submitted to these tip lines. On December 24th, investigators reported having received at least 15,000 tips regarding the case. The police initially left open the possibility of more than one perpetrator. Police stated that they believed it was a targeted attack, but have not concluded if the target was the residence or its occupants. In a November 23 press conference, the Moscow police chief said that authorities had received a number of tips, one of which indicated that Goncalves allegedly had a stalker, but were unable to verify that claim or identify any such individual by the time of the press conference. While this claim received much press attention at the time, it is yet to be mentioned in the case against the eventual suspect. After receiving hundreds of tips from the public, on December 15th, police announced they were searching records of approximately 22,000 fifth-generation Hyundai Elantras made between 2011 and 2013. A camera in the area captured video of a white or light-colored Elantra around the time of the murders, which investigators noticed had made multiple passes along the same route near the residence. 21 Another surveillance recording obtained by investigators also showed an Elantra passing by the victim's home 3 times, beginning around 3:29 a.m. At 4:04 a.m., the Elantra returned to the home for a 4th time. At 4:20 a.m., the car was seen speeding away from the victim's neighborhood. Investigators in neighboring Pullman, Washington, a college town adjacent to Moscow, began an investigation into a white Elantra belonging to a 28-year-old PhD candidate and teaching assistant named Brian Christopher Kohberger, who drove it with his father home to the Pocono Mountains of Pennsylvania for the holidays. Kohberger's Elantra was of a later year than the original police description. Kohberger was pulled over twice within a nearly 5-mile radius by Indiana State Police on Interstate 70 outside Greenfield, Indiana, allegedly for following too close or tailgating. The FBI denied allegations that they had directed the Indiana State Police to make the stops. Investigators obtained cell phone data that showed that Kohberger's phone stopped connecting to the network around 2:47 a.m. in Pullman on November 13th, before reconnecting around 4:48 a.m. near Blaine, Idaho, which is near U.S. Highway 95 south of Moscow. Cell phone data also shows that his phone utilized a cell tower near the victim's residence around 9 a.m. on November 13th, approximately 5 hours after the killings. Police also obtained data that indicated that his phone pinged from the cell phone tower nearest the residence at least 12 times between June 2022 and November 13th. Investigators obtained 3 unidentified male DNA samples from the crime scene, including DNA found on a tan leather knife sheath on Mogen's bed. Using a public genealogy database, authorities reportedly identified a partial match to an individual with a familial connection to Kohberger. Investigators recovered trash from outside Kohberger's family's home in Pennsylvania for DNA, which they stated was consistent with being the source of the DNA from the sheath. Before the arrest, investigators monitored Kohberger outside of his parents' Pennsylvania home. He was allegedly seen multiple times wearing surgical gloves and observed putting trash bags inside of the garbage can of a neighbor. The items were sent to the Idaho State Lab for testing. Authorities also said Kohberger had cleaned his car, inside and outside, not missing an inch of area. According to authorities, a search of the home where Kohberger was arrested revealed a knife, a pistol, and a black face mask, as well as ID cards inside a glove inside a box. Kohberger was taken into custody by an FBI SWAT team and Pennsylvania State Police on December 30th at the home of his parents in Monroe County, Pennsylvania. At the time of his arrest, authorities allegedly found Kohberger in the kitchen dressed in a shirt and shorts, while wearing examination gloves and putting trash into separate Ziploc baggies. Brian Christopher Kohberger was born on November 21, 1994, in Albrightsville, Pennsylvania. 68, after graduating from Pleasant Valley High School in 2013, he attended Monroe Career and Technical Institute in Bartonsville, but dropped out a year later. Koberger later attended Northampton Community College's campus in Tannersville, where he earned an associate degree in psychology in 2018. After graduating from Northampton, he worked as a security guard for the Pleasant Valley School District, the same school district where his father previously worked as a maintenance worker for many years and his mother for a time as a substitute teacher. He received a BA in 2020 and an MA in 2022 in criminal justice from DeSales University in Center Valley, Pennsylvania. In the summer of 2022, Koberger moved to Washington State to pursue a PhD at Washington State University in Pullman. Its campus is less than 8 miles, 13 kilometers, west of Moscow. At the time of the killings, he was a doctoral student in criminology and had completed his first semester there 9 days before his arrest. Koberger had been a teaching assistant at WSU, and less than 2 weeks before the murders, faculty members met with him to discuss growing concerns about his behavior and conduct. Koberger was terminated from his teaching assistant role on December 19th, with the decision being based on his unsatisfactory performance as a teaching assistant, including his failure to meet the norms of professional behavior in his interactions with the faculty and sexism/being rude to women, including students. On December 30th, 2022, Koberger was arrested on 4 counts of first-degree murder and 1 felony count of burglary, was appointed a public defender, and was detained without bond at the Monroe County Correctional Facility in Stroudsburg, Pennsylvania. On his return to the county courthouse on January 3, 2023, he agreed to extradition. On January 4th, he was flown to Pullman, driven to the Lada County Jail in Moscow, and held without bail. Koberger made his first appearance in the Lada County Courthouse on January 5th and was charged with 4 counts of first-degree murder and 1 count of burglary for breaking into a home with the intent to commit a felony. 1 week later, on January 12th, Koberger made his second appearance for a status conference in the same room at the courthouse. On May 17, 2023, the Lada County District Court announced that Koberger was indicted by a grand jury on 5 charges: 4 counts of first-degree murder and 1 count of felony burglary. A preliminary probable cause hearing scheduled for June 26 was canceled after the indictment. In May 2023, Koberger refused to enter a plea during his arraignment. His attorney said that Koberger was standing silent on the charges. The judge entered a not guilty plea for him. On June 26, the Lada County Prosecutor's Office announced they were seeking the death penalty given the alleged aggravating circumstances of the first-degree murder charges. Koberger was denied bond. In January 2024, the judge granted the defense access under seal the results of the investigative genetic genealogy testing, which used a touch sample from the knife sheath left behind at the crime scene, which first led to the investigation of Koberger. On September 9, 2024, the judge granted the defense's motion for a change of venue. The trial is scheduled to take place in Boise, Idaho, with Judge Stephen Hippler presiding over the case. 89-90-91 On October 9, 2024, Judge Hippler set the start date for jury selection as July 30, 2025, with the jury trial beginning on August 11, 2025. On February 24, 2023, University of Idaho President C. Scott Green announced that the house where the killings occurred was donated to the university. It was demolished 10 months later on December 28. A memorial garden for the victims on the University of Idaho campus is being planned. Scholarships in the name of 3 of the victims, Kernodle, Chapin, and Mogan, have been created. The university awarded posthumous degrees to the 4 victims at its spring commencement ceremonies on May 13, 2023. The owner of the property in Moscow, Idaho, where 4 college students were killed, is cooperating with police as they continue their investigation. During an interview with KREM-TV in Spokane, Washington, Moscow Police Chief James Fry was asked about the owner of the 1122 King Road residence and if they have been in communication with detectives during the investigation. "We have spoken with them and they are cooperating," Fry said in response. No information at this time has been released about the identity of the owner of the residence. The comments by Fry come amid the ongoing investigation into the November 13th quadruple homicide of Kaylee Goncalves, 21, Madison Mogen, 21, Ethan Chapin, 20, and Xana Kernodle, 20. As the investigation has continued for more than a month, police have not been able to successfully identify a suspect or person of interest. No suspects has been identified, and only vetted information that does not hinder the investigation will be released to the public, the Moscow Police Department said in a press release on Tuesday. Police have continued to hold most information about the case from the public, and during the interview with KREM, Fry explained that doing so is normal in most investigations. You always hold back information on any case you work, but one this big you hold back because you want to have an unbiased jury pool, Fry said. It's not just about today, it's about in a year from now or whenever we make an arrest and go to trial. We want to have that pool of people who can look at the case and not have all the facts to that to make the decision to find this person guilty. While speaking with Newsweek on Wednesday, former FBI agent Jennifer Coffindaffer said that this case is not cold at all, citing the thousands of tips police are receiving as well as the pieces of evidence collected from the crime scene. Coffindaffer also explained that since there is a finite amount of individuals who are focused on DNA, sifting through all the evidence may take time. Fry was also asked by KREM if investigators have already received DNA results from a lab. "We don't want to rush that," he said. "We're just waiting for them. We have to be patient too. We would love to have all that information immediately, but like I've told people, real life and the movies are a little bit different. You know, the movies, at the end of the hour they have all that information. We don't get that quite that fast, but we're going to be patient for that." The police department in Moscow, Idaho, which is investigating the murders of 4 students, has mentioned an ongoing lawsuit against a TikToker and its relevance to the case in a Facebook post. Since November, the deaths of Kaylee Goncalves, 21, Madison Mogen, 21, Ethan Chapin, 20, and Xana Kernodle, 20, gripped the nation. The group were found fatally stabbed in an off-campus residence near the University of Idaho, and an investigation was launched by the Moscow Police Department. Police have not named any suspects nor publicly announced the names of any individuals that have been arrested in connection with the case. TikTok personality Ashley Gillard, who claims to be able to solve crimes in her videos, has recently had a lawsuit filed against her by the associate professor and chair of the history department at the University of Idaho, Rebecca Schofield. The lawsuit claims that in numerous videos posted by Gillard, she accuses Schofield of being responsible for the 4 students' deaths. While police have requested information and help from the public in solving the murder, they have also warned against misinformation. Throughout the ongoing investigation, numerous theories and rumors have circulated on social media, and police have repeatedly reiterated the importance of only trusting official sources of information. In a new Facebook post, the Moscow Police Department addressed the ongoing lawsuit and said, at this time, they do not believe Schofield is involved in the murders. The police department in Moscow, Idaho, which is investigating the murders of 4 students, has mentioned an ongoing lawsuit against a TikToker and its relevance to the case in a Facebook post. Since November, the deaths of Kaylee Goncalves, 21, Madison Mogen, 21, Ethan Chapin, 20, and Xana Kernodle, 20, gripped the nation. The group were found fatally stabbed in an off-campus residence near the University of Idaho, and an investigation was launched by the Moscow Police Department. Police have not named any suspects nor publicly announced the names of any individuals that have been arrested in connection with the case. The lawsuit claims that in numerous videos posted by Gillard, she accuses Schofield of being responsible for the 4 students' deaths. While police have requested information and help from the public in solving the murder, they have also warned against misinformation. Throughout the ongoing investigation, numerous theories and rumors have circulated on social media, and police have repeatedly reiterated the importance of only trusting official sources of information. The Post continued, "There have been numerous inquiries from members of the public and media to verify digital media published online. Any picture or video provided through the official public records request process is authentic." The group were found fatally stabbed in an off-campus residence near the University of Idaho, and an investigation was launched by the Moscow Police Department. Police have not named any suspects nor publicly announced the names of any individuals that have been arrested in connection with the case. The lawsuit claims that in numerous videos posted by Gillard, she accuses Schofield of being responsible for the 4 students' deaths. While police have requested information and help from the public in solving the murder, they have also warned against misinformation. The Moscow Police Department will not provide a statement about the ongoing civil process. The police department also explained how information posted online is assessed. The Post continued, "There have been numerous inquiries from members of the public and media to verify digital media published online. Any picture or video provided through the official public records request process is authentic. However, once a record is released, we can no longer verify its authenticity as we do not know if anything has been altered. Detectives are aware of videos distributed by local businesses. Investigators believe someone has information that adds context to what occurred on the night of the murders and continue requesting additional pictures, video, and social media content. Our focus remains on the investigation, not an individual's activities displayed in an online tip. Whether you believe it is significant or not, your information might be one of the puzzle pieces that help solve these murders. Digital submission of tips and leads will not be publicly disclosed due to our ongoing commitment to keep information private, and details may be pertinent to the ongoing criminal investigation. No suspects has been identified, and only vetted information that does not hinder the investigation will be released to the public. We encourage referencing official releases for accurate and updated progress." Brian Kohberger, 28, faces 4 counts of first-degree murder in the stabbing deaths of the students in an off-campus house last November. He was arrested following a 6-week manhunt. A judge entered a not guilty plea on his behalf last May after he chose to stand silent in court. In new court filing on Monday, prosecutors wrote that considering all evidence currently known to the state is compelled to file this notice of intent to seek the death penalty. The top prosecutor, Bill Thompson, wrote in the court filing that this case met the standard for the death penalty as Mr. Kohberger's acts were especially heinous, atrocious, or cruel, and exhibited utter disregard for human life. Kaylee Goncalves and Madison Mogan, aged 21, and Xana Kernodle and Ethan Chapin, both 20, were killed in an off-campus apartment on November 13th. The gruesome murder of the 4 college students days before Thanksgiving in 2022 shocked the nation. Goncalves' family said they are grateful that prosecutors are pursuing the death penalty in the case. "We continue to pray for all the victims' families and appreciate all the support we have received," the family said in a statement on Monday. Investigators have said the killer left DNA on a leather knife sheath found at the crime scene. In January, unsealed court documents revealed police collected a knife, Glock pistol, black gloves, a black hat, and a black face mask during a search of Mr. Kohberger's home. Documents also show police seized and later dismantled a white 2015 Hyundai Elantra that Mr. Kohberger had occasionally driven. Mr. Kohberger's attorney criticized the prosecution's reliance on investigative genetic genealogy in its own recent court filings, calling it a bizarrely complex DNA tree experiment. Investigative genetic genealogy, using DNA from crime scenes and seeking to identify suspects through other genetic DNA profiles or matches, has been used with growing frequency in recent years to solve crime cases. Prosecutors have said the FBI went to public DNA sites with results from the knife sheath, which allowed them to hone in their investigation on Mr. Kohberger. At the time of his arrest, Mr. Kohberger was studying to earn a PhD in criminology from Washington State University, 8 miles from Moscow over the Idaho/Washington border. His trial is set for October 2nd.